Welcome to the real life show, Living with a Chronic Illness. We are your hosts, Cassie and Chelsea. I'm Cassie, a single mom living with a chronic illness who is extremely passionate about living a full and happy life.
And I'm Chelsea, a mindset coach that has a passion for helping people learn to put themselves first and be the best version of themselves each and every day.
We came together to create Spoonies Unite, an uplifting community that offers resources, guidance, and support so you can live your best life while giving you the space to be yourself, be heard, and feel understood. We hope that by providing education from experts, we help Spoonies and their loved ones thrive.
This show is not only for those who live with a chronic illness, but their friends, family, spouses, and just anyone else existing on the earth. Our goal is to normalizing having a chronic illness by sharing the real stories with real people and show the world how relatable those everyday struggles can be. There's a little something in here for everyone.
And of course, thank you to our patrons for your continued support making this possible. If you love our show and want to get some extra goodies, go to patreon.com/TheRealSpooniesUnite. Enjoy the show. Welcome to today's episode, the real life show, Living with a Chronic Illness. Today we have a wonderful guest, Michelle Quay. Michelle Quay is a certified transition life coach who helps negative self-talkers to discover inner strength and beauty by overcoming fear for judgments. Michelle's speaking career began in 2018, soon after she founded her own coaching company. She is the author of the new memoir, Perfectly Normal, An Immigrant's Story of Making It in America. She is a board member of the United Nations Association of the USA and a clinical pharmacist at USC's Keck Medical Center. Michelle was born in Taiwan and grew up in New York, but today she lives in Los Angeles with a short-haired brown tabby cat named Buster. If you're looking for her, odds are you're good. If you're looking for her,
you want to just do all of it again?
You'll find her at the gym. I'm sorry.
Just because, no, it's not your fault. So the connection kind of went bad. So they're like halfway through, like one of the sentences was very much like,
all right, like, let's just, okay, I got it now. All right.
You're good.
Take two. Welcome to today's episode of the real life show, Living with a Chronic Illness. Today, we are interviewing an amazing person, Michelle Quay. Michelle is a certified transition life coach who helps negative self-talkers to discover inner strength and beauty by overcoming fear of judgments. Michelle's speaking career began in 2018, soon after she founded her own coaching company. She is the author of the new memoir, Perfectly Normal, An Immigrant's Story of Making It in America. She is a board member of the United Nations Association of the USA and a clinical pharmacist at USC's Keck Medical Center. Michelle was born in Taiwan and grew up in New York, but today she lives in Los Angeles with a short-haired brown tabby cat named Buster. If you're looking for her, odds are good you'll find her at the gym.
We had a wonderful conversation with Michelle. Her story is absolutely incredible, and to hear about all of the things that she has pushed through in her life and how she has come back from being in a very, very dark place to become this positive light that she uses to help teach other people to push past their own negative beliefs, negative self-talk, to just be the best version of themselves. It was just amazing hearing her story, full of resiliency, positivity, and just see where she's coming today. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the real life show, Living with a Chronic Illness. Today, Cassie and I have a very special guest with us, Michelle Quay. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you so much for having me. This is already very fun.
Oh, good. So, Michelle, will you tell our listeners a little bit about you and your story and what has gotten you to where you are today?
It's going to be a long story.
It's a great one. So
it's a really good story.
Yeah,
really
share the whole thing.
Let me see if I can condense it a little bit. So I am a confidence and leadership coach. I work with negative self-talk to help them to become the most confident person in the room and also just being the most confident person in the world by releasing that fear of judgment. So growing up, I carry a lot of this fear for judgment. I was born in Taiwan. When I was 11 years old, I had a car accident that led to a permanent damage on my leg. So it was just an ordinary day. And I remember growing up, it was nothing special. You know, I was a kid, and I remember I resent going to school. And that day, I remember my mom was coming to pick me up, and she was running a little bit late. So I was hanging out with my friends, and we were just playing. And I saw my mom coming towards where I was playing with my friend. And so I got up and I was crossing the street to meet her. And as I was standing in the middle of the street, suddenly I heard a lot of commotion that was going on. And there, I saw my best friend, and she was yelling. She said, "Stop, stop." And I was just in a total shock. I didn't know what to do. So I froze. And as I was standing there, I remember smelling the rubber that was burning, and I heard some loud screeching sound. And by the time I was able to pause and reflect, it was already too late. So I went complete blacked out. By the time I woke up, I was already in hospital. I was in hospital bed, and I remember seeing my parents talking and speaking to the doctor. I looked down to my waist. I was feeling a lot of pain, and I felt really trapped. I was trying to turn, but I couldn't. And I noticed from my waist down all the way to my ankle, I was wrapped with these plasters. So the doctor had to stabilize me after the car accident. So I was pretty much homebound and bedbound for the following 3 months of my early childhood. Initially, it was fine. It was like, there's no more school. I was so happy. I was so glad that I don't have to go to school anymore. That was the first week. And I think, after a while of isolation, you start missing friends. You start missing that interaction with your teammate, with your best friend. And I miss all that starting from like the second week. And I wanted to go back to school, but I couldn't. So from 11 to 15 years of age, I was basically just going through recovery from that accident. I had to go back to surgery multiple times. So there are a total of 13 scars on my legs. These scars came from the fact that I had to keep going back to surgery because the doctor found that my bone was not healing correctly. So they kept going back and putting plates onto my bone and stabilizing it and taking it off. So it was going back and forth of the surgery. I got really familiar with the surgery room. It was the smell, the people. And one of the surgery I remember very distinctly, I woke up sleeping in the recovery room, and I opened my eye, and suddenly, for whatever reason, I just wanted to sing. So I turned around and I said to the nurse, "Hey, is it okay for me to sing?" And I was only 12 years old, and I wanted to sing. So recovery nurse said, "Of course, go ahead and sing." So I started singing in recovery room, and I was just sang, and it was almost very therapeutic for me to take my mind off the pain that I was experiencing. And back then, we didn't have a lot of like pain medication, and that pain therapy was not something that's very effective. And I remember my mom was telling me, "Oh, don't take too much pain medication." So many times I would sit up after surgery and just holding my legs and crying myself to sleep because it was so painful. And I was told, taking pain medication is something that's very bad for you. So I kind of just resist that pain. So I remember sitting in my bed, rocking and crying, and just those first couple of nights after the surgery, which was really extremely painful. And moving forward, at age 15, my doctor released me from the hospital, from the rehab center. But they gave me was a pair of metal bracelet to wear. My doctor told me that you have to wear these up until you're 18 when you stop growing. Otherwise, because of your body weight, you may create damage to your legs because your body weight might weigh your legs down. So I said, okay. So initially, the first 2 years, I abide by the rule and I wore them. And they were the most hideous pair of shoes I can ever find on this earth. And they were so hideous that every time I go to school, I would feel awkward because they're heavy, they're metal, And those pair of shoes just have nowhere of matching any of the outfit that I wear. And I really envy the fact that these girls, they were able to starting to wear heels, they were able to starting wear pretty shoes, and I couldn't do that. So I got really upset. And my parents by that time had already got the permission to come to United States. So we immigrated from Taiwan to New York. New York was kind of my home. It has a place in my heart. So I didn't speak English when I first got here. So it was not only do I have to deal with the physical differences, I had to kind of get myself into that entirely different culture, different language, and different friend circle to hang out. It was really hard for me to adjust to this new environment and finding a place for me to fit in. And you know, during that time, the peer pressure starts to kicking in. I see these pretty girls, they're all hanging out with each other, their hair's all pretty, they have makeup. And that was something that I've always wanted to do, but I couldn't. I have these, when I look into the mirror, I see ugly pair of metal shoes. I see myself short. I see myself just not the way that these pretty girls would look in high school. So that was not a very pleasant experience to go through as a teenager. Moving into my womanhood, to adulthood, to college, and it just made the matter worse. And by age 16, I decided, you know what? You know, I don't want to wear these ugly shoes anymore. I want to blend in. I want to fit in. So I decided I was going to throw away my metal bracelet, and there it was gone. But it was a very bad decision that I made on my part, because lo and behold, my body weight did create that damage, that permanent damage on my legs. So my legs has been disfigured because of that. And by college, I noticed that I couldn't walk very far without any assistance. Initially, my mom was my crutch. She goes everywhere I go. So I was holding on to her hand everywhere we go. When I went away to college, I couldn't bring my mom anymore. So what I did was I ended up using 2 crutches to help me to walk. And ever since college, I've been using these 2 crutches. They're heavy, they're big, they're chunky. Everywhere I go, I don't have any hands to hold on to anything. So it's very inconvenient to carry my book bag, to carry holding a book in my hand and to handle these crutches. It was just a lot of inconvenience in life. So moving from college all the way to graduate school, this is how I look. This has always been my outfit with me. You know, it was at the time where I started to wanted to look for someone to love me, and that looking for someone, the significant other, and going into relationship, it was something that everybody else are able to do it, and everyone else started to, you know, get on date, and they ultimately a lot of my classmates got married actually after college, and for me it was just multiple rejection after rejection, and it led me to believe that they don't want to be with me because this is how I look. And I also started to believe that, you know, whether it's job interview or going into a relationship, what people look at is the first impression. And what is the first impression? The first impression is how I look. And I'm short, so no one take me seriously. No one think that I have the wisdom, I have the intelligence of doing the job or going into a relationship. And the way that I look, I'm not attractive. I didn't see myself when I look into the mirror and finding myself being attractive. So without all that, what do I have? I don't have anything. So those days, there are days where I would wake up in the middle of the night and for no, I want to say fucking reason, no fucking reason, I just start crying. And it was like that every single night for a long period of time, that I realized that maybe life doesn't have a purpose. Maybe this is just a joke. I was brought here because this is a curse, and I was being cursed. And this is why it's so painful and dreadful. And even though I was doing all this, routine where I graduated from school, I go to a job, but that doesn't feel very fulfilled. And there must be a reason why I'm here. And the reason why I'm here at that time, I thought it was just a curse. It was my punishment. I must have done something wrong in my past life, or something wrong with me that I deserve this. So I saw it as a curse, as a punishment, and it was just not very fulfilling. One day, I think I was 40 at the time. I woke up that day and I told myself, there's like that little voice start to kicking in. It was whispering. It said, Michelle, are you gonna live like this for the rest of your life? Like, how much longer? How much longer do I have to tolerate this pain? And there's a little whisper that came in. I kind of shined on a light into me, and I said, you know what? Maybe I need to do something different. Maybe I need to change. But how do I change? So the first thing that came to my mind was maybe this physical challenge is stopping me from showing up, from living my life. Maybe if I do something about this physical challenge, I might be able to change. So that something to led into an action. And that action was going to Target, and I bought one of those balancing ball. I told myself, hey, listen, so you can jump and you can run, but you can sit on the ball and maybe rocking back and forth. That would help you to lose some weight, and maybe that would kind of help you to figure out, what might work in terms of this physical challenge. I said, okay. So I was sitting on the ball. I was rocking back and forth for like a week or two. And I was able to lose some weight at that time. I gained 10 pounds because of that stress, and I was stress eating. And so I started to lose some weight. I'm like, okay, so this is working a little bit. And how do I take it to the next level? And I started to think, well, maybe the next level means that I have to start using some gym. Like, I never gone into the gym all my entire life. Don't know how to do the machine. Never been onto a treadmill because I didn't think that it was possible. But I walked into a gym and I said, you know what? I'm going to join the gym and I'm going to sign up. And there are many times I walk past that by the treadmill, and I still envy the people who stand on the treadmill and they're able to run, they're able to walk. So I wanted to make sure that I make the best out of this membership. So I went ahead and hired a personal trainer. After I hired a personal trainer, I thought about, well, maybe this personal trainer can help me to strengthen my leg and help me do something more. And I remember during that time, my friends were talking about their experience going to Peru. Like, a lot of them very fit, and back then fitness was something that's everybody is into, and it is people are still into. And so they were talking about the trip to Peru. I wanted to do that. I wanted to fit into the conversation. I wanted to blend in and be able to participate in those conversations when they talk about it. So I told my personal trainer, I said, listen, I know this may be difficult, but this is why I hired you. I want you to help me so that I can hike. And he said, great, let's do this. Let's go hike. Where do you want to hike? The little hill over there? I said, no, I wanted to hike Machu Picchu. He said, you want to do what? I said, I want to hike Machu Picchu. He said, well, and this is where that fear started to come in, and it was showing up in him, and he was afraid that, I might hurt myself. So he said, well, I don't know, Michelle, do you think maybe trying the smaller here? I'm like, nope, I'm going to go to Machu Picchu. You're going to help me with this. And so we start training, and we do a lot of weight training. We do, I actually got onto the treadmill for the first time, and he said, well, start slow, just walk, and you can hold on to the handle. So I start walking on the treadmill for the very first time. It was such a big accomplishment. I was feel like, I can walk on the treadmill for the first time, and I actually know how to use it. So I started to walking, very slowly and gradually. And now I'm still walking on the treadmill, and I spend like 45 minutes every day just walking on the treadmill now. So getting onto the treadmill, doing a lot of training. And so in September 2016, I booked myself a ticket alone. I brought my 2 crutches, my pink crutches. They're pink, fusion pink. And so I brought my 2 pink crutches with a little tiny luggage, got to Peru. And 2 days before my hike, I got food poisoning. It was so bad that I checked myself into the hospital in Peru. I was in hospital bed. I remember they gave me some antibiotic and some fluid, and my body was all blown up because of the water fluid that was collecting. And I called my sister and I told her what happened. And she said, Michelle, you need to get your ass back home here. You're going to die in Peru and no one's going to know about it. And I said, I'm not coming back. And I actually bought helicopter insurance just in case I die up in Machu Picchu. Someone will lift me, bring my body back. So I did all that, and I want to go so bad. And that wanting to go so bad was I believe it was something that I wanted to prove to myself that I am capable of doing this, that I can do this. So I told my sister, no, I am not coming back, and this is what I'm going to do. So 2 days later, I got onto the hike. It was 26 miles total, 4 days. We had to rough it out. So every night we would camp. Every day I would wake up 5 o'clock in the morning, put on my headlight, and I start walking because I walk really slow, and it would take me the entire day to get to our next campsite. So I remember the first day after the trail, the first part of the trail, the team leader, he sat me down after dinner and he said, Michelle, this is only the first day, and I was seeing you struggling because every step of the way you were struggling, and there's a lot of uphill. Are you sure you want to do this? Because starting from day 2, we can't go back. If you made a decision to turn back day 1, we can still do that. We can get you out on day 1. I sat there and I told him, I didn't come this far to go back, and I am not going back. So he made a suggestion for me to get up early and just starting the hike early compared to my teammate. Generally, the itinerary is that you wake up 7 o'clock in the morning and you start your hike. And by 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you should be able to go to your next campsite. But for me, since I'm walking really slow, every single day I woke up at 5 o'clock when it's still dark outside, my teammates are still sleeping in their tent, I start my hike. And I was able to, with that 2 hours ahead of time, I was able to meet up with them just in enough time so that we can sit down together to have dinner. And every day was like that. And I was using 2 crutches. So each time I was lifting myself up, going up to the stair, it was a push-up. So I did numerous push-ups, one after another. And a lot of those steps are actually taller than the length of my leg. So each time the way I had to get up to the stair is I put my crutches on the next stair, got down to my hands and knees, crawled up, pick up my crutches, and I repeat that for each step I go. By the end of the day, my wrist was starting to hurt. It was so bad that I needed to ask for an extra bucket of water so that I can immerse my hand into the hot water in order to alleviate that burning pain that I was experiencing. So I kept repeating that for the whole entire 26 miles of hike. On the last day of my hike, it was they call it the sun gate. At the sun gate, there's 50 steps, the last 50 steps leading into Machu Picchu. 50 steps there, it's about 60 to 70 degrees angle, and the steps are very narrow, so there's no way that I can land my crutches onto these steps. And I remember standing at the bottom of the stairs, and I was looking up, and I said, oh my God. And I didn't know what to do. I stood there for a while, and I said to myself, I'm here. I made it this far, and this is it. This is the last 50 steps I have to take. I'm up for it. So I gave my 2 crutches to my team leader, and I took off my backpack. I said, here, you carry this and meet me on the top of the stairs. And so he went up like in 2 seconds. I got down to my knees and handed again, and I started to crawl the last 50 steps. It was the most longest, tallest stairs ever. And halfway, this is something that it didn't occur to me during that time. And someone took a documentary video for me, and I was just watching it the other day. And I remember halfway through that stairs, I was thinking about hamburger, because I was so hungry by the time I got there. So all I could think of is getting this over and just have a juicy hamburger. That's all I wanted.
I saw on that video, and you said, "Can I have 2 lunches today?"
Yes. I was starving. And so I got up to the top, got back my crutches, and I was so happy that I held up to my 2 crutches in a victory shape. I'm like, yes, I did it. Walked into the site, to the gate, and there's a whole lot of people sitting there and resting, and from everywhere internationally, and people just needed some time to recuperate. Everyone, as I enter, everyone stood up, and they were all clapping, and they were all cheering, and they're like, yeah, you made it. And I walked in, my teammate all came up to me and gave me a hug. They're like, yes, you made it. And, it was just, I started to break down, and I was crying. I was just all in tears. That was probably the most ugly moment in my life. So I started to cry because it was so amazing, very inspiring. And I realized that on top of Machu Picchu, what my life purpose is. And I think I found my life purpose in that very moment. And so I came back, I realized that my purpose in this life is to inspire. And I started to think about, what is it that I'm inspiring them with? How do I inspire them? And what do I have to do to inspire people to want to get up and do something about their life? Like, how do I do that? So this is how the universe works. Sometimes there's so many little hints that come into our life that's telling you, hey, this is what you need to do. It's like pushing you and giving you a nudge, like, this is what you're supposed to do. And I remember that time I was talking to a friend, and he was telling me that his nephew has schizophrenia and has been seeing a therapist for a very long time, but he was thinking about hiring a life coach. And I said, oh, life coach, what is that? And so I came home, I went on to Google, I searched life coach. And life coach is someone who partner with another person and provide them with inspiration so that they want to take action. And I was like, oh, that sounds like me. Maybe that's something that I need to do. So I went on and I was searching for a program where I can actually get certified and learning the skills that I need to provide this inspiration. Because people were already coming to me and sharing their problem, telling me, what they're going through. I said, okay, so maybe this is something that I need to develop. I need to start growing. So I enrolled myself into a coaching program, and I got certified in 2019. And here I am having my own business and doing seminar and public speaking to inspire people. And this is my purpose.
That's amazing. That is such an incredible story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
It's so inspiring. I mean, the obstacles that you have overcome and just taken on, head on, and just been like, no, I'm doing this, and pushing and over and over and over again. I mean, that is a huge amount of strength that you have, and immense motivation.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really difficult to actually come to that realization, because I was actually sharing something this morning. It's really difficult and hard to see grace in our painful experience. I think most of the time, and I can speak this from my personal experience, I saw it as a curse. During that painful moment, it was a curse. It was something that, I wanted to get rid of. I don't want to experience that. But for whatever reason, looking back, you start to pick out, like, it was necessary to bring my journey here.
I think that's so important to share, because there's so many people who have a chronic illness or a disability, or an accident happens and you get really resentful to your body and angry and negative. And it's so hard to turn all of that around and try to love yourself and see yourself differently and be positive. And so when you were feeling so much of those negative feelings, and then you did do this shift where you decided to start on the exercise ball and then go to the gym, what was some of that thinking that helped you make that shift and go into the action of actually changing the way that you were feeling and the way that you were looking at yourself?
So when I was looking into the mirror, I didn't see myself as being pretty. I didn't see myself as, I'm part of this society, in this world. Women need to be in certain shape, and I didn't have that. So there was a lot of thinking that was going on, that I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not tall enough. I can't be wearing bathing suit like that. That doesn't belong to me. When those thoughts start to show up, I think what really worked for me is that acceptance. Just accepting and coming to realization that this is what I have. This is what's given to me. And that's okay. Just accepting the fact that this is the reality, it helped me to start looking into, if this is the reality of it, and I can't change it, there's nothing I can do to change my body. What can I do to make this body work for me? So instead of me working for the body, what can this body work for me? How can I use this body? And some people call it, this is a vehicle. Then our body is our vehicle. So how do you drive your vehicle? Where do you want your vehicle to go? So instead of letting your vehicle drive you, why not drive your vehicle and be in the driver's seat rather than the passenger seat? So I think just by acceptance, I was able to start looking at the opportunity. So I think acceptance is a really big piece, because I think a lot of people are still, they can't really accept the fact that this is what's happening. So they keep projecting into what may be possible if should it be differently. So what if, this accident didn't happen, I wouldn't have this, but it happened. So that's accept the reality of it. And how can we move from where we are now into the future?
That's beautiful. I think that everyone could do a better job of accepting ourselves as we are. I know for Cassie and I, one of the goals of this podcast is to normalize what it's like to live with a chronic illness or a disability, because a lot of the experiences that we all have the same experiences. I mean, you talking about, I can't wear that bathing suit, or I can't wear this, or I can't wear that. I mean, even myself as someone who doesn't have a disability or doesn't have a chronic illness, I still have those exact same thoughts going through my head. And one of the things that I love about the people, like being able to talk to people like you, is I feel like both Cassie and I get to really connect and resonate with the stories that are told, which just shows that this is just part of the human experience. And maybe if you have an illness or a disability, you experience it on maybe a higher level, or you've got other challenges. But I think that that's something that everyone could really do a good job of improving in their lives. And so I think that just accepting yourself where you are, and then, as you said, taking control of your vehicle, being the driver, that is so beautiful and so inspiring.
Yeah, taking control of your experience, and yes, your little vessel, your vehicle. I really love that too, and the acceptance, because you're totally right, Chelsea. One of our purposes with this is so that everyone can see that we're all relatable. This is a shared experience, being a human being walking around or rolling around or whatever it is on earth. And the acceptance part that resonates really deeply with me too, because for a long time, I mean, I definitely like fought my illness and fought the life that I felt like I had to create living with it. And I have become so much happier in my everyday life when I have accepted it and accepted that this is part of my life. And how can I live the best life for me with this instead of fighting it so much? And so, it's incredible. I mean, it's so inspiring and incredible though, that when you had that experience, you were like, yeah, I'm going to start with a little bit of exercising on this exercise ball, a little bit of walking, and then I'm going to hike Machu Picchu.
It just goes to show that if you start small and you add on, you can accomplish something that you would never think that you could. Yeah. You can really do it if you start small, keep going.
I would love to ask, like roughly what was the timeline from kind of starting with the exercise ball, moving to personal training, walking, and then Machu Picchu? What was that time frame ish?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So from the balancing ball to the personal trainer and, start training, it was within 2 months. And from Machu Picchu, from the training started to Machu Picchu, it was within less than a year.
So that's remarkable.
And I was really religious about going to the gym, training, and every single day. And I remember my other goal was to have 6 packs. I want 6 packs. When you browse through social media, there's women showing their 6 packs. And that was something that I wanted. I said, you know what? I am fucking going to get the 6 pack. Yeah. So I did. I got my 6 packs. I still have my 6 packs.
Nice.
And that was within, just within less than a year. So it was 2015, I started training, and 2016, I went.
I mean, that is so remarkable. I wasn't expecting it to be a year. I mean, that just really goes to show, like, when you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. And I'm sure that throughout that time, you had so much happiness from your accomplishments. Like you said, looking at the people on the treadmill, having those feelings of envy, then you're the person on the treadmill, and then exercise and movement gives you endorphins. Yeah. So you're just increasing your happiness the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then there's a 3D rule that I typically share with friends and listeners. So the 3D rules are determination, discipline, and dedication. You have that. You have to have a goal, right? So you have to be determined that you're going to reach your goal. You have to discipline yourself and making sure that you hold yourself accountable in showing up every day doing the things that you said you were going to do. So discipline. Dedication. You have to be dedicated to achieving it. You have to have that intention of bringing it forward and knowing that you will get there. And that's dedication. So 3D rules.
That's really good. I love all that. So you mentioned earlier that you do kind of a lot of work with people, helping them release the fear of judgment, getting rid of that negative self-talk. Why do you think that when all of us are trying to be happy and confident, like that's the end goal, right? We all want to feel good. Why do you think we always have that little voice in our head that's just like, nope, we can't do that. That's just so mean. Like, where do you think that comes from?
So that feeling, that voice come from, it's all part of us. So it never separated us. And I think, one of the things that a lot of people do is when that voice show up, we don't want it. And when that something is negative, we don't want it. We want to push it aside. And when we want to push it away, we want to separate ourselves from it. But what we don't realize is that fear is actually there the whole entire time since the birth. We have it in the beginning of our time. We start learning more and more about the fear through our experience. As a child, our parents taught us, don't climb up high because you're gonna fall. That was based on fear, the fear of falling, the fear of not being successful, the fear of something that's negative. So the fear has always been there, and we've been taught to fear for something. So that fear is always been part of it. So if you're trying to separate out something that's already in you, that's already belong to you, and this is where Casey was saying that, that resistance, that come in. So the more that you resist something, the stronger, more power you give it to. So as you're pushing the fear away, fear will become stronger and stronger and stronger. And fear is just an emotion. If you think about, how we attract to happiness, we all want to be happy. We want to have joy. Fear is something the opposite of happiness. Can you push away happiness? No. So why would you push away your fear? Fear is there to protect you from harm, from danger, from all the things that you may be taking too much risk. So fear has a role, has a purpose in our life. So why create that resistance and why give power to fear when it's just a natural part of how we feel as human? So being fearful is something that's very human. So accept that fear and don't resist it will actually lessen the power it has over you.
It's great advice.
I mean,
It truly is.
Yeah, looking at it like that is like such a great perspective, because it's true. So much of the time when you just try to fight something, it's like, don't think about a purple elephant. Mm-hmm. All you can think about is like the image of a purple elephant, And so it's like, when you say don't do something, don't think about this, push it away, it does just like creep up more and get in there more and try to take over. And even like when coping with anxiety, instead of saying like, I'm not having anxiety or I'm not having a panic attack, you're supposed to say, okay, I am feeling anxiety. I'm feeling a lot of panic. Why? Am I okay? Is there an immediate threat? And you kind of like work through it. And the fear is kind of that same thing. Yeah. And accept it and use it.
So speaking of accepting how you're feeling and being able to use those feelings to kind of move towards where you really want to be, you mentioned earlier that you viewed your accident, your disability as being a curse. Mm-hmm. I know that it can be really, really common, as Cassie mentioned earlier as well, that like you can view your body as being broken or wrong when you have a disability or a chronic illness. So for someone maybe that's listening, that's kind of in that dark place of, I don't know why this is happening to me. What's the point? Like, I'm cursed, whatever their version of that is. What advice would you give to those people struggling in that just deep, dark moment to be able to find a way out of it, to be able to find the confidence and acceptance that you have been able to find?
Mm-hmm. I think the most important step, number one step, is to validate your experience. This is something that had happened and it's legit. It's happening right now, and this is what you're going through. And just understanding that you don't have to rush through feeling all this. You don't have to rush yourself to feel happy again. You don't have to rush yourself to be grateful about this experience. You can be angry, and there's reason why you are angry because it happened. And I think many of us try so hard to be happy and be positive, but what we're not realizing is that we're not validating those feelings. It's perfectly normal to have to feel the way that we feel in that moment of time, whether it's worry, stress, and that resentment about what our experience is, our body. It's perfectly normal, and it makes total sense why we would feel that way. And to take it the next step is, once you have gone through and accept this is what it is, then you can perhaps to start seeing the opportunity. What opportunity can you learn from this experience? If there's something that we need to learn from this moment, from our body, what is it that you need to learn? What is it that you need to see? Maybe it's something that's internal. Maybe something that you were really good at. For me, it was something that's very creative. I love painting. So even though I can't run, but I can really paint well. So what is it that you can do well in your life and that has been doing so well for you up until this point? Like, disregard, no matter what accident, no matter what kind of disability we have, what has been working well. There's a strength within each one of us, and that's what we need to focus on. But take your time to go through that experience. And you may not be able to see it as something that's, like I said, something that's pleasant, something that's graceful, but use that as a guidepost. Be curious about what you need to learn from that experience.
That's really important. I mean, especially to start with validation, because so often all of us don't experience the validation that we're often seeking and don't always feel heard. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really huge, even just in the beginning, to start with. It's understandable that you feel this way. One can see why, but then shifting that, what can you learn from it? I love that. I love that perspective.
Thank you.
I also love that you mentioned giving yourself time. Because I think that, I know that's something that I've struggled with, is I identified as being this like happy, smiley, laughy person. So anytime I do feel negative emotions, whether it's just anger, sadness, anxiety, anything like that, I in the past had a pattern to, okay, well, I'm not feeling good, so I need to fix that like right away. Mm-hmm. And that never actually helped. And I know, as I kind of just allowed myself, I'm like, okay, if I don't feel 100% ecstatic today or excited, like that's okay. And it allowed me to kind of appreciate the days where I maybe didn't feel 100% a little bit more. And then it made me really thankful for the days where I felt like I was taking on the world and could do whatever I wanted and was just super excited and happy about life. And so I think just giving yourself the space, like that's amazing advice that we should all listen to a little bit more.
I think you are yourself's BFF, right? So we all have our BFF in our life. And in those moments where we do need a little bit of more caring and compassion and love, like what would your BFF say to you in that moment? Mm-hmm. Let's have a pity party.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love that. Just what would you say to your best friend in the same situation? Because chances are you're not going to tell your best friend, oh, yeah, you're a worthless piece of shit. You don't deserve anything.
Exactly.
Like, you're not going to say that to your best friend. So why would you say it to yourself? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good way of framing those thoughts of, would you say this to your best friend or not? Well, Michelle, thank you so much for this conversation. Your story is so inspiring, and I hope everyone that's listening, even if they're in a spot that's not so great right now, I hope that they are going to allow themselves to feel whatever they need to feel, go through that process, and know that there can be something really good on the other side. Because, I mean, that happened with you. It sounds like you struggled for years. And I mean, look at you now. You teach people to be confident and happy and live their best life every day. And that is just so inspirational.
Thank you. Yeah, there's superpower. Each one of us have superpower. So finding your superpower is important.
Perfect.
Gosh, that's absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on the show with us. This is such an important story to share, and then such important perspectives to share that I think people are going to really, I mean, I feel like I'm going to walk around with like my shoulders back a little bit more and feeling a little taller. Like, I'm heard. And I don't know. I feel really motivated and good from this call.
Good.
Hey, yeah. I know I will be paying attention to the negative self-talk that I say. And for all of you listeners out there, Michelle totally called me out on being negative at the beginning of this. So yeah, she's on it. She notices every little negative thing, even if it's tiny. It was wonderful. But Michelle, how can people find you on the internet if they want to get to know you a little bit better and start following you?
Mm-hmm. They can find me on Instagram at Elevate Life Coach, or they can find me on my website at elevatelifecoaching.org.
Awesome. And we will link those in the show notes. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, all you listeners should go follow Michelle. She's wonderful. We've had so much fun talking to you.
Thank you. Me too.
Yay. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please write us a review to help us reach more people like you.
If you'd like to connect with Cassie and I, you can find us on Instagram at The Real Spoonies Unite. You can also join our private Facebook community, Spoonies Unite, or you can visit our website, therealspooniesunite.com, for all sorts of resources and to stay up to date with our current projects. And don't worry, you can find all of these links in the show notes below.
Thank you to our wonderful Spoonie patrons for all your support, and you can become one too. That's right. All you have to do is go on over to patreon.com/therealspooniesunite, and you can get all sorts of extra goodies like videos of our episodes and more.
Any support is greatly appreciated. It helps enable us to create more content for all of you, as well as make this podcast sound better and better. Thanks for listening. We can't wait to be back in your ears soon.